We are likely at the beginning of the end of the Lincoln cent as we know it. I'm going to talk about the reason why in this video and also discuss how people lost a lot of money betting on the end of the cent in production this year. Let's talk about it as we explore. Legislation has been introduced, and it very well could pass, considering it was a bipartisan effort here. It's called the Common Sense Act and was introduced to halt the minting of the penny. Now, the penny is the incorrect term. The actual term is the cent, but everybody thinks of them as pennies. In fact, even the United States Mint incorrectly refers to them as pennies these days. President Trump announced in February on social media that he had directed the Treasury Department to stop minting new pennies, citing the rising cost of production. According to this piece here from WSA, a bipartisan group of lawmakers introduced legislation to eliminate the penny, formalizing a proposal first floated by President Donald Trump earlier this year. Representatives Lisa McClain, a Republican from Michigan, Robert Garcia, a Democrat from California, along with Senator Cynthia Lummis, a Republican from Wyoming, and Kirsten Gillibrand, a Democrat from New York, introduced the Common Sense Act, which would direct the Treasury Department to stop producing the 1-cent coin within a year of the bill's enactment. The proposed legislation comes nearly 3 months after Trump announced on social media that he had directed the Treasury Department to stop minting new pennies, citing the rising cost of production. Indeed, they are a cost of more than 2 cents to make. For far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. In fact, it's almost 3 cents. He says, "This is so wasteful," Trump wrote on Truth Social back in February. "Pennies are a waste of taxpayer dollars. It doesn't make sense to spend millions each year minting coins that so few people actually use," McClain said in a statement. Of course, I don't know about you, but I know about me, and I still use cents. I had got a lot of the stuff hanging around here, and as you can see, we didn't think we'd see very many 2025 cents, but I got a couple back in change just recently. There's 3 of them here, and maybe more, but there's 3 at least here, and there's people paying upwards of $200 for a roll of those that I saw on eBay earlier in the year when I first reported on Trump's statement. And but nonetheless, I'm not going to pay that much for it. And I was calling around the banks to see if they could get rolls there. They had not seen any come through, but nonetheless, more on that later. Now, it does take a number of these in order to buy precious metals, especially gold this time of year, because considering the price has gone up so much. But you can look at summitmetals.com. They're the sponsor of the channel. They have great deals on your gold and silver needs. No copper there, but nonetheless, they will take your cents. Indeed, but they just got to add up to dollars. But check them out at summitmetals.com. The bill would require cash transactions to be rounded to the nearest 5 cents, with specific rules on whether to round up or down based off of the final digit. Electronic payments, credit card transactions, and other non-cash payments would not be affected by the rounding requirements. It's time to invest in a future that works for the 21st century economy, and that starts with suspending production of the penny, Gillibrand said. The U.S. Mint reported losing $85.3 million in the 2024 fiscal year on nearly 3.2 billion pennies, with each coin costing about 4 cents to produce. Well, I think it's 2 to 4 cents. Anyways, it is a lot. But currency experts had questioned whether Trump had the authority to unilaterally eliminate the penny without congressional action. The Common Sense Act would provide the legal framework for implementing the president's directive. Well, the president can suspend production of cents in a given year or produce just a number of them and then stop. And apparently, when he made that directive, they had already had the blanks in order, and so they started to produce. I'll get to that in a moment. But under the legislation, pennies would remain legal tender indefinitely, but their production for general circulation would cease. The bill includes an exception allowing the Treasury to continue producing pennies solely for collectors, provided that the sales generate sufficient revenue to cover production costs. Indeed. And so that means we'll likely still have those, just like we had the half dollar, which generally doesn't circulate, although they have been producing some for circulation in recent years, mainly because people have been requesting half dollar boxes in order to coin roll hunt. But nonetheless, other than that, they are still sold to collectors, and cents would be too, for quite a premium, I would say. And of course, this has to be stopped within a year, which means that they can mint the semi-sesquicentennial cents for 2026, which are just simply the Lincoln cent with a double date on it. That's it. But likely they'll do those, and collectors will gobble them up. But nonetheless, several countries, including Canada in 2012, have already eliminated their lowest denomination cost. The United States previously discontinued the half cent back in 1857. The bill's introduction aligns with the administration's focus on cost-cutting measures, led in part by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, which has targeted federal spending across agencies. The legislation has been referred to the House Financial Services Committee and the Senate Banking Committee, where it awaits further action. And considering it's bipartisan, it is likely this thing could go through with not much pushback. Now, for this year, there's been as I reported on earlier, breaking news when it broke about Donald Trump mentioning the elimination, or ordering the Treasury Department to stop producing them. Does not mean eliminating them, just stop producing them from this point forward. Well, it's strategically planning to execute efforts at the Philadelphia and Denver mints to cut back the output of Lincoln cents for general release through the Federal Reserve, Coin World reports. The Federal Reserve remains the U.S. Mint's lone customer for copper-plated zinc cents, whose production cost more than the face value. But Trump announced his Department of Government Efficiency measure to eliminate Lincoln cent production altogether, and an authority the president does not have. Monetary authority codified by law rests in Congress. Well, he can suspend and he has suspended the production for this year anymore, and apparently that has been done. Legislation introduced in the 119th Congress would specifically limit production of the Lincoln cent, a coin that has been struck for nearly 116 years since its introduction in 1909. But the inventory of unstruck, ready-to-strike planchets combined at the Denver and Philadelphia mints is considered by the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Mint enough to handle production needs for the near future as the mintages wind down, with no more planchets ordered from the lone outside vendor. The unstruck planchets also sufficient for striking uncirculated cents at the Philadelphia and Denver mints for inclusion in the uncirculated sets and proof sets executed by the San Francisco Mint. The ready-to-strike planchets with raised rims have been produced for decades by the same contracted outside vendor in Tennessee. The vendor has undergone several name changes, but newspapers in the regions have published concerns that should the U.S. Mint completely sever any contracts for planchets, the move could finally cripple what is now known as Artisan LLC. So far, for 2025, through the 1st of April, the Denver Mint has produced 295.4 million Lincoln cents, dated 2025 for circulation. They're not going to be rare, folks. I got these in change. These are Philadelphia minted sets, and the Philadelphia Mint share is 350 million cents. So, in contrast, in calendar year 2024, Denver struck 780.4 million cents, and Philadelphia struck 734.8 million cents. And so, yes, indeed, a lot. And so, anyways, the cent production and distribution costs have exceeded face value for several years. And but that could come to an end with this legislation that is being proposed in a bipartisan way. And so, therefore, I think that the 2026 cents will likely be very, very few, but they'll probably mint some for collectors and general circulation more so than usual because of the semi-sesquicentennial. So we'll see how that plays out. But one thing is for sure, these Lincoln cents are essentially just copper-coated zinc. Very, very little copper on them, just coating them out, and they will rot in the ground, that's for sure. And there's not much to them. They're lighter. This is what a real cent looks like. This is a one when they used to have them in copper. 95% copper and 5% zinc. And they are heavier. Yes, indeed. Those were the days. In fact, I'm starting to save a couple of these as well, too. In fact, that one there from the 60s, a lot of these were high relief on the obverse, which is pretty interesting. But yeah, let's look through a couple of these. Very, very nice. To get this is an 82, which was the year that they shifted to the copper-coated zinc. And this is a 95% copper version there. And there it is. Very nice. This one here is from 1964. Again, you can see the high relief on that one. And here's another Lincoln cent here from 1962. Very, very nice. And I've got all here to the side what the cent used to look like. I feel like this design better. The Indian head cent. That's pretty cool. Yes, indeed. And I like that. I think that's a better... It'd be nice if we could go back to the classic or some more of a classic design rather than have a Lincoln on there. But, the thing is about the Lincoln cent is, it is the one coin who has the image of a person more than any other coin in the world history. There's no other coin, and there's no other person that's been so widely stamped on a piece of metal than Abraham Lincoln. And that is the Lincoln cent. Since 1909, his portrait has not changed. Same portrait all the way throughout. In fact, here is a wheat cent from 1954. And same portrait. Same portrait as there as here in 2025. Same portrait. Now, obviously, different relief. It's been recarved over and over again, but nonetheless, there you have it. So... yes, interesting. We'll see how this plays out, but let me know what your thoughts are about the Lincoln cent and its elimination. Are you for it or are you against it? I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.